Beadwork is beautiful and easy to learn. Beading on a loom is a perfect way to get started. You can create great-looking beaded strips that make up dance outfits, belts, hat bands, and make everyday items eye-catching. You can create bracelets and headbands for yourself and your friends. This video shows you how to bead on a loom with easy-to-follow step-by-step instructions to create a beautiful beadwork strip. You'll see exactly how to set up the loom and how to do loom beadwork stitch on a larger-than-life model loom. You'll find out what supplies you need and how to create your own designs, and get tips from a master Native American beadworker. By watching and reviewing this program, you'll soon be making your own beadwork. So join the excitement with How to Bead Native American Style, Volume 1, Loom Beadwork. Let's take a look at the things you'll need to get started. The best beads for loom beadwork are number 10 glass seed beads. They're packaged in plastic bags or sold in strings called hanks. Seed beads come in different sizes. The larger the number, the smaller the bead. For this project, the number 10 size is the best. Be sure and buy enough to complete your project because the color of beads may vary slightly from group to group. You can find beads at Native American specialty stores, craft stores, or you can order them by mail. A long needle is the best for loom beading. It's called a beading needle. A number 12 needle will work well for the number 10 size bead we'll be using. It's best to have two types of thread. First, cotton thread for stringing the loom. You'll need heavy-duty button and carpet thread. In loom beading, this thread is called the warp. Second, nylon thread is used for weaving the beads. This thread is called the weft. Don't worry about these terms right now. We'll be using them a lot during the tape. Beeswax will make it easier to work with the thread. You can buy a wire loom, or you can make your own loom from a couple of pieces of lumber. Use a 1/4 inch threaded rod at each end to keep the warp threads evenly spaced. For plans, see the printed instructions that came with this video. It's fine to start on a smaller loom, and that's what we'll use for our beaded strip project. But as you get more experienced, buying or building a longer loom will make larger strips easier to bead. A couple of other items can make beading a lot easier. A good light source. It's easier to see what you're doing and you can work comfortably for a longer time. And for those of us with bifocals, a magnifying stand will help us get a closer look at what we're doing. And many beaders have found that a small box and little screw-top plastic containers or baby food jars keep beads in order. To help you see exactly how to loom bead, we'll be showing the process step by step on 2 different looms. We'll make the first larger than life so it's easy to see where the needle and thread are going. Then we'll show you the same step on a normal size loom. You may just want to watch this section once to get the big picture and then work through it with your own loom. A great way to plan beadwork is to sketch out a pattern on graph paper. We've provided some blank graph paper with spaces that are approximately the size of the number 10 beads you're using. Here's the design of the beadwork strip that we'll be making. The first step in loom beading is getting the loom ready. So begin by knotting the thread on the anchor at the end of the loom and string the loom from one end to the other. You're going for a snug, uniform tension when stringing these warp threads. Too tight is not right. Pulling too tight will give you beadwork that buckles and won't lay flat. String the loom from one end to the other. Go around the anchor and continue stringing until you have the number of strings for the number of threads in your project. Most beadwork strips have an odd number of beads, and you'll have one more thread than the number of beads. For instance, our diamond beaded strip has 7 beads, and so we're stringing a total of 8 rows of thread. Now that you've got the concept, let's string our normal size loom. Use cotton, button, and carpet thread for the warp threads. Remember, snug uniform tension, not tight. String one more thread than the number of beads. Wax the threads on the loom to make it easier to work with them. Threading a needle can be frustrating. Here's a time-saving tip. We're using nylon thread for the weft. Wax the end of the thread first, flatten it, and cut it off straight. This will make it easier to thread the needle, but it still may take more than one try. Pull about 6 inches on through the needle, then cut off about an arm length of thread, then wax the rest of the thread. Tie the weft thread with a tight knot to the outside thread near the end of the loom. This will prevent your beadwork from coming apart when you take it off the loom. Now let's tie on for real. Now we're ready to bead the pattern. As you can see from our design, the first row of beads are all white. Pick up 7 white beads on the needle and pull them onto the thread. Take the beads under the loom threads, and with the forefinger of the other hand, work a bead in between each loom thread, pushing the beads up. Take the needle and thread it back through the beads. Go over the top of the loom threads. Pull the needle thread on through until it is taut, but not tight. Now on your loom, pick up 7 white beads on the needle and push them onto the thread. Work the beads between the loom threads, pushing them up with your forefinger. The first row can be the hardest. Take your time. Thread the needle back through the beads. Make sure the needle is going on top of the loom threads. Pull the thread until it is taut. Pulling it too tight will mean lumpy beadwork. Let's do the second row on the big loom to make sure we've got it right. The design calls for 3 white beads followed by 1 blue and 3 more white. Again, push the beads up from underneath the loom and thread them with the needle coming over the top of the loom threads. Make the second row on your loom. 3 white, 1 blue, 3 white. Push them up and thread back through over the top. Congratulations, you've just finished 2 rows of loom beadwork. Continue this basic stitch following the diamond design. The third row is 2 whites, 1 blue, 1 yellow, 1 blue, and 2 whites. The fourth row is 1 white, 1 blue, 1 yellow, 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 blue, and 1 white, the center of the diamond design. Here's how the third and fourth row will look on your loom. Row 5 is the same as row 3. Row 6 will be the same as row 2. And here's the completed diamond. Here's how adding each row should look on your loom. Now keep going until you've got 6 diamonds. Sooner or later you'll run out of thread. Here's how to add new thread and not have it show up on your finished beadwork. When you've got about 3 inches of thread left on your needle, pull the end of your thread on through the last row of beads and pull the needle off that thread. Rethread the needle with another length of thread. Go back about 3 rows on your beadwork. Take the new thread back through your beadwork, making sure that your new thread goes on top of the warp thread. When you get to the last row of beads, your new thread will be held in place by the tension of the beadwork, and you can continue. Later you can go back and cut off the end of the old thread and the tail of the new thread. Here's what it would look like on your loom. You're nearly finished with your first project. Repeat one more row of all white beads. To secure your strip and finish off your project, take your needle back through several rows and cut off the thread. Here's your completed piece. Cut it off the loom. Tie off the threads like this. You can use the threads as a tie for a bracelet or headband, or sew the beaded strip on a cloth or leather backing. The end threads will be tucked back under the beadwork, or you can attach a clasp. Now that you've learned the basics, here are some more tips from a master beadworker. Robin Ankew is Kiowa and Cherokee and taught herself how to bead. Her beadwork is widely known. She's repaired older beadwork pieces for museums and collectors and taught beadwork in public schools and to adults.
The number one thing to be a good loom beadworker is patience. If you have patience enough to thread the needle, you have enough patience to do any kind of beadwork. And loom is the easiest, and it's the number one beginning thing that I like to teach when I teach beadwork. Mistakes are not a problem, and they can be rows can be easily taken out and redone rather than leave the mistake in there and let it be noticeable. Mistakes like this are no problem. This orange bead should not be there. Simply pull the row out the same way you put it in. Use the needle to pull the loop out like that. You pull the row out, which can be done just as easy as putting it in. We don't want the orange bead in there. We want solid black. And there you have it. Corrected mistake. To keep the tension even on each row, I give each row at the end of pulling the string through, I give it a little tug, just enough to where it's tight enough that it's going to lay evenly across. When you're finishing off a finished strip off the loom, you use masking tape, and the easiest way to do it is you want to make sure you get all these strings inside the frame of the strip, and you want to lay this tape down just as close as you can get it to the first row or the last row. And you get all the threads. It doesn't have to look pretty because this isn't going to show, but it looks nice if you can make it look halfway decent. Use your fingernails to iron down the tape to the string, and you want to get it as even as possible. I'd say about four layers of tape, 4 wraps around is plenty. Any more would be too thick, any less wouldn't be enough. And when you press this down with your fingernails, you want to make sure it's on there good and tight. You get your scissors and you trim just a hairline. And there you have it. And both ends can be folded back and sewn on any backing, such as buckskin, cotton, canvas. I like to use canvas because it's waterproof. Tapered ends are mostly done for anything that's going to dangle, like a fringe. It adds a special effect to it rather than the plain finished straight across. The tapered end is just as easy as doing a normal row, and all it is just a lessening of the beads. This is the last full row I'm going to complete before I begin tapering. Okay, when you taper, you want to start on this second string right here. And the way you do that is you bring your needle inside of all these. You're more or less doing away with this outside string. And instead of bringing it up all the way on this side, we're going to go on the inside and do away with this other outside string. We're not going to cut it off, we're just going to leave it alone. And we're going to put a row on. Okay. The next row we're going to use 5. we're going to go inside again and leave off another outside string. Put 5 beads on, and then when we go back under, we're going to leave off the other outside string. And we'll go one more time down to 3. And there's the 3. And there you have a tapered end. Now when you finish this tapered end, you go back through just like you would end a normal end of a thread. Go back through. And since it's the end and since it's going to be fringed, you want to make sure it's double secure, because this strip right here will probably get a lot of movement on it and you don't want it to come apart. So you want to secure it where you know it's going to stay. And there we have the tapered end. When finishing off the tapered end, this narrow, you would simply twist the strings. All the strings are just naturally going to form together. You want to twist them like this and get you a good knot. A lot of times you can use a little bit of Elmer's glue to secure the ends. You want to tie just a knot as close to the end. There you go. Anything can be added, a cone, buckskin fringe can, but the main thing you want to do is you want to make sure that knot is going to stay and the strings will naturally form with it. Then you want to cut this back, not too much, enough to wherever you're going to sew on the end will stay.
With the basics you've learned, you can begin to create your own designs. Study beadwork at Indian stores, in museum collections, and notice beadwork at powwows to learn more about correct Native American design and color. Understand that some designs are for loom beadwork, while other designs are meant to be done in a lazy stitch or applique. These techniques will be taught in later videos. For now, try to use loom beadwork designs for your projects. Notice that many times a particular tribe will use certain designs and colors. Generally, Native American beadwork uses vibrant colors and contrast to make the designs eye-catching. Observe which colors work best. This study of good beadwork can help you come up with your own designs. First, work out the design with colored pencils or pens on graph paper. Don't feel locked into the colors we've chosen for this first project. You may want to see what colors are available from your bead supplier before you start your own design. Computer software can help you try different designs and colors. You can also change the colors of the background or the diamond design. You can also change the diamond shape. Loom work is ideal for showing your name, initials, or organization. For centuries, beadwork has been a way to explore beautiful combinations of color and design. And now that you've learned the fundamentals of loom beading, beadwork can be an exciting expression of your creativity. We hope you've enjoyed this video, one in a series of how to bead Native American style. Here are some of the other videos available from Full Circle.
When fall comes to northeastern Oklahoma, it colors the rolling hills and ripens the magenta berries of the native buckbrush. This is the season when LMA black bear begins to gather the long runners of the buckbrush to make a basket in the traditional way of the Oklahoma Cherokees.
It's always been there, and maybe this was one way that the old Indian people felt that they could communicate with us here in the future. And here the Indian people have been doing this for the last 2,000 years, so now it's kind of come full turn, and everybody's starting to look at these things again and realizing the design importance and the impact that it has.
It does something to put the clothes on, does something to get out there and be involved with it.
Mom always said, and I said as I get older, I realize this more, that ribbon work is the dance, and the dance is ribbon work.
The powwow is where most people hear Native American music today. But these songs are only a part of a greater variety of Indian music, especially in Oklahoma, home to more than 200,000 Native Americans from over 35 tribes. There is much more music to hear. This program is a selection of concert and on-location highlights, a sampler of this rich musical heritage.
From earliest times, American Indian women have created the clothing and finery worn by their people. They often decorated their work with traditional patterns and symbols of their tribes. Working with native materials and later using trade items, women made garments that were both practical and beautiful. Indian women were quick to use new materials, such as colorful silk ribbons and glass beads, crafting the traditional patterns in completely new ways.
Long before this land was called America, Native people danced in a circle around the drum for celebration, fellowship, renewal, and healing. Today, the beat of the drum resounds throughout Oklahoma, once known as Indian Territory, and still home for more Native Americans and more tribal groups than any other state. From many individual tribal ceremonies and songs of the Plains Indians has come the contemporary powwow, an Indian gathering of many tribes, an intertribal blend of the old and the new. In the powwow, a non-Indian might see the power and endurance of an athletic contest. To find out about more videos in this series, or the other videos produced by Full Circle on related subjects, call for our free catalog or write us. Thanks for watching.